Hello and welcome to LFC Focus. Liverpool have got an absolutely massive game in the Premier League on Friday night as they travel to the Emirates Stadium to face Arsenal in their final game before Christmas, where we'll be marking the halfway stage of what has been a bit of an iffy campaign so far. You know, things got off to a really good start in August, bit of a false start against Watford, but things got going, a lot of good wins, some good performances, including a thrashing of Arsenal. Things were looking very rosy. Then the 5-0 against Man City happened. Everything sort of went off the rails. It just seemed like the team wasn't capable of scoring enough goals and was leaking far too many goals at the back. But since the defeat against Spurs, Liverpool have really got their act together. They've been putting in some fantastic performances. They've been getting wins when they need to get wins. They've got a couple of disappointing draws here and there, but nothing too annoying. And they have been unbeaten since that game against Spurs at Wembley. And this is Liverpool's first big chance since then to actually make a statement win. Because obviously, apart from Chelsea, since that Spurs game, we haven't actually played any big teams in the Premier League. We haven't played any of our big six rivals. And while we've had some big games in the Champions League, it would be absolutely huge for Liverpool to finally make a statement in domestic competition against Arsenal in the Premier League and show that we are here to stay in the top four of the Premier League. And obviously with Burnley also playing Tottenham this weekend, Liverpool have got a real chance to put distance between themselves and 5th place as well. So this is an absolutely massive game and one that, for me, Liverpool absolutely have to win. So team news going into the match. Joel Matip is emerging as a potential surprise, maybe not starter, but featurer in this game in some way, shape or form. Jurgen Klopp mentioned him in the press conference going into the match and said that he was becoming more and more fit. He had entered full training. So it's possible that Joel Matip may play some role in this game. The fact that he's in full training suggests that he is available to do so. But given that it is a reasonably lengthy injury layoff, you know, he's been absent for quite a few games now, it seems a little bit odd that maybe Jurgen Klopp would throw him into the starting lineup, especially in a game as big as the one against Arsenal. And to be honest, Lovren and Klavan haven't actually been that bad over the last few games. You know, they haven't actually conceded a goal from open play into the Premier League, I think, since the one against Chelsea, the one that Willian scored. Since then, they've been very tight at the back. They've only conceded through penalties, and those have been some very dodgy penalties, let's be honest. So I can't really see Joel Matip starting this game, but it would be great to see him feature in some capacity. Elsewhere on the injury front, Lallana is edging closer and closer to match fitness. Jurgen Klopp said that he was fine to play some role in this game. Obviously, he came on for the last 20 minutes against Bournemouth, had a sort of non-exciting cameo. Nothing really happened for Adam Lallana, but it was good to see him on the pitch for a slightly more extended period of time, because before that he'd only appeared against Chelsea and that was for like 3 minutes or something like that. So Adam Lallana could easily play a large role in this game, probably not from the starting 11, but potentially off the bench for like half an hour or so. Elsewhere, Alberto Moreno is still out, sadly. He's still going to be out for another few weeks. It looks like he's basically going to miss the entire festive period, which is very disappointing because he's been having such a great season for Liverpool, but oh well. And elsewhere, Daniel Sturridge is ill, but could feature in some capacity in this game, because it has been very annoying that over this period, when Liverpool have been rotating a lot and switching up their forward line and everything, it's been really disappointing that Daniel Sturridge hasn't been able to feature in that. But it is, according to Jurgen Klopp in his press conference today, possible that Daniel Sturridge may play some role as well against Arsenal. So quite a few maybes in there, a lot of players who might feature or might not. It sounds like it's going to come down to maybe last-minute fitness assessments on the day or anything like that. But as for how I think Liverpool are actually going to line up for the game, I think it's going to be Mignolet in goal. Again, no huge surprises. Obviously, he sat out the game against West Brom for a knock, came back in for the game against Bournemouth, did fine, didn't really come under any pressure, so no surprises there in goal. Centre-back pairing, I think it's going to be Lovren and Klavan. No Joel Matip. I think, you know, depending on how the game's going, if it's going fairly easy, we might bring him off the bench just to give him a little bit of playing time. But I think if the game doesn't become easy at any point, I think you'd stick with Lovren and Klavan all the way through, because you don't really want to unsettle your back line, especially when they've actually been playing reasonably well over the last few games. And then either side of them, I think it's going to be Gomez on the right and then Andrew Robertson on the left. And my reasoning for that is again to do with not really unsettling the back line at all. You know, there's a temptation to put Milner in at that left back spot, with it being away from home, with it being a very big game as well. You'd think maybe you might want to offer a little bit more protection for your centre-backs than Andrew Robertson might offer. You know, Milner is more specifically defensive when he plays full-back, whereas Robertson's main abilities are going forward. However, I think with like I said, with our defence performing so well, you don't really want to be making too many changes, and Robertson has performed reasonably well over the last few games, and he's also forging quite a nice partnership with the players further up the pitch, which we weren't seeing from him earlier on in the season. And then with Joe Gomez over Trent Alexander-Arnold, very simple choice. Gomez is just a little bit better. He's been performing so well. He's absolutely excellent, and Liverpool will really need him on that right-hand side with the form that Mesut Ozil is in for Arsenal at the moment. And then moving on to the midfield, I think it's going to be Henderson, Emre Can and Felipe Coutinho, because, you know, I can see Henderson playing this game, even though he has been poor over the last few games. And, you know, Jurgen Klopp has still played Henderson, but he seems to be dropping him kind of as much as he possibly can while still using the excuse of rotation. Whether or not that is just because he likes rotating Jordan Henderson, or whether that's because he's slowly sort of phasing him out the picture at Liverpool. He had an okay performance against Bournemouth. You know, it wasn't great, but it wasn't as poor as some of those that he's been putting in recent games. So I can certainly see him starting this game. And then I think if you're going to have Coutinho alongside him in midfield to provide the attacking outlet, you want a player like Emre Can who's a little bit more strong, got a little bit more muscle to provide that more defensive side in midfield to help out Jordan Henderson. You know, I can't really see Milner starting because I think Emre Can is just more useful to Liverpool than James Milner is. And I think Wijnaldum, he's got a bit too much about him going forward, and also doesn't necessarily always show up in the away games. So that's how I think Liverpool are going to line up in midfield. And then the front three, I think we're going to go full strength. I think it's going to be Salah, Firmino and Mane. There's a shout for Oxlade-Chamberlain, obviously, against his former club. He'll definitely be fired up. He's really coming into some form at the moment. He had a great game against Bournemouth. Some people said he was man of the match. I certainly thought he had a fantastic performance. But I just think you want to go with the Fab Four in this game. You want to go full strength with your attacking lineup. And then it's great to have options like Oxlade-Chamberlain on the bench should Liverpool want to shake things up, or maybe rest a few of their attacking players later on in the game. So that is how I think we're going to line up. So Arsenal then, they're actually in pretty good form at the moment, to be honest. It's weird because the last few times we've played Arsenal, we've actually caught them, you know, in very, very bad moments. Obviously, at the start of the season, the 4-0 at Anfield, they were in terrible form. They really hadn't hit the ground running at the start of the season in August. When you go further back, we played them at Anfield in, I think it was March or something like that. They were on a really bad patch of form then. It was actually just after that game that they started to sort themselves up and build up a bit of a top four challenge that eventually, as we all know, didn't come to fruition as they are now in the Europa League. And even before that, when we played them at the Emirates and won 4-3 way back at the start of last season, you know, Arsenal are famed for having slow starts to seasons recently, and that was a very strong example of it. And so it's kind of weird going into a game against Arsenal where they're actually doing pretty well and getting together a lot of wins. I think they've won something like their last 13 of their 14 games at the Emirates, and that is incredibly impressive form. So out of all the times that we played Arsenal, I'm certainly more nervous going into this one than I have been playing against them in the past. And for me, one of the few things that gives me a bit of extra confidence and a bit of a boost going into the game is the fact that they don't have Olivier Giroud, because while he's not necessarily their first choice striker, you know, it's highly likely that Alexandre Lacazette was actually going to play up front from the start in this game. I still think that Arsenal, they like to play Giroud against us. They know he's the kind of striker that we can't necessarily handle. He's a big man up front. He likes getting in the air, stuff like that. He can pretty much always score when he gets a chance in the box, and he does have a pretty decent record against Liverpool. So for me, that is very good news, but Arsenal is still a very, very formidable opponent. But despite that, like I said earlier, I think this is one that Liverpool absolutely must win. You know, we really need to put our stamp on the top four. It's been sort of higgledy-piggledy so far this season. We haven't really pushed ourselves into those Champions League spots for an extended period of time, and around this time, around the Christmas period, when you get the opportunity to pull away with the congested fixture list, this would be a great time for Liverpool to get that statement win against Arsenal, get 3 points over our rivals and push ahead for Champions League qualification. So here are my 3 reasons why I think Liverpool will beat Arsenal. So first of all, while, like I said, Arsenal are in some very good form going into this game, they are still pretty much the ideal team for Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool to face. And that is what we have seen time and again over the last few games we played against them. You know, we've scored 4 goals twice against them, and we've scored 3 goals twice against them. And yes, we've conceded a few along the way as well, but when it comes to Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool against Arsene Wenger's Arsenal, we just always seem to get the better of their defence. And a lot of it does have to do with, you know, the kind of high line that Arsenal like to play, the way that they like to press at their opponents, especially at the Emirates as well, with the size of the pitch as well. And I know these are a lot of the excuses that I gave for the game against Spurs as well, and that didn't exactly work out like planned. But Liverpool are a different team and a different prospect at the moment, and I think if we go to Arsenal and show the form that we've been showing over the past few games, then we'll exploit that space as much as we possibly can. And with players like Salah and Mane to run into space behind Arsenal's defence, I just think there's every chance that we could get a huge amount of goals in this game. Fingers crossed we can get 5 this time. And second of all, on the subject of the Spurs performance earlier in the season, Liverpool have tightened up defensively. Like I said, we are a different team, and a lot of that is to do with how Liverpool play at the back. And, you know, there have been tactical tweaks. There's a lot to do with how their focus is now much more primarily on defensive work. We know that Jurgen Klopp likes all of his players to contribute to the attack. It's been said that he doesn't really like playing with the deep-lying midfielder. He wants that number 6 to actually lead the press rather than sit back and try and intercept passes and cut the passing lanes for the opposition. So I think there's been a drift towards having more of a focus on letting those centre-backs and the full-backs especially just get on with their job defensively and not contribute going forward as much. Obviously, we still have the full-backs bombing on. Joe Gomez has still got a bit about him going forward. Andrew Robertson always likes those marauding runs down the left or even through the centre every now and then, as we saw against Bournemouth. But Liverpool's defence is a lot better than it was in that game against Spurs, and I think it's now at the kind of level it needs to be in these games against the Big Six for us to get a result. And finally, if I had to pick a man who's going to dominate this game, you already know who it is. It is Mo Salah, because he is absolutely fantastic, in such good form at the moment. 20 goals already for the season, and he just scores every goal you can possibly imagine him doing. And I'm expecting Kolasinac to start on that Arsenal left-hand side because, you know, he's their best left-sided defender or left-back. It kind of depends on what formation they play, but I certainly think he'll start whether it's at left centre-back or whether it's in left wing-back. And either way, he played in the game against West Ham on Tuesday night, so he will have a little bit of fatigue in his legs, and I fully expect Mo Salah on Liverpool's right-hand side to exploit that. And I just think with the space he's going to get, like I mentioned, we're going to be trying to hit Arsenal on the counter-attack a lot of the time during this game. He is the perfect player for this kind of match. And if anyone's going to win the game for Liverpool, it's going to be the King of Egypt. It's going to be Mohamed Salah. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy this video, why not give it a like? If you're new around here as well, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel. Stick around for the post-match video after the game against Arsenal on Friday night. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I will see you on Friday night after we've hopefully beaten Arsenal and cemented our place in the Champions League qualification positions over Christmas. Bye for now.